Welcome, everyone, to episode 3 of RDH Sports. Host Chad, joined by the other member of the Hanks clan, Tanner. How's it going, dude?
It's good. It's good. I'm back at the crib, back where you and I grew up this weekend, and
There we go.
I'm sporting the Aikman jersey for this one. Got to represent.
That one looks good. And everybody that doesn't know, who's never listened to the pod before, massive Cowboys fan over here. Brother just joined. Brad is no longer here. Like we said a couple episodes ago, he is greener pastures. We have Tanner here, Cowboys fans on this podcast, but we are not homers by any stretch of the means. We like to talk a lot of Cowboys. So if you like the Dallas Cowboys, you're in the right place. Also like to listen to Dallas Cowboy fans sometimes criticize Cowboys a little bit more than average Cowboys fans. You're also in the right place. Because Tanner and I have a realistic expectation of the Dallas Cowboys when, Dak Prescott, for example, makes a lot of money and is not necessarily one of the playoffs, which we're going to get into in future episodes. But for this episode, the first segment, we are going to talk about Tanner, and he's going to cover the NCAA Men's Basketball National Championship because he watched that. I'm going to cover the Women's National Championship, and then we're both going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys draft needs. This is why I was bringing it back to Tanner's wonderful Aikman jersey. Are you ready
Oh,
to
I'm
cover
I'm
the
ready.
Men's National Championship, Tanner?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Here we go.
the thing about this national championship is it was good. I'm not gonna say it was bad, because I don't think any championship game is gonna be bad, just based on the stakes, right?
That's
But
true.
let's like tone it back a little bit. The semifinals, the final four. I mean, I'd say the best game of out of those three games, including the championship, was the semifinal game between San Diego State and Florida Atlantic. I think Florida Atlantic probably was possibly the favorite going into that game, because
Yep.
they had won, even though they were a 9 seed, they had won the most times out of any team in the NCAA tournament. I'm pretty sure was the stat. Definitely the ones remaining, but they technically had the best record, even though they're a 9 seed. They're just in a small conference, right? But that game was electric. FAU led for, I want to say, the entire game. Maybe not all of it, but 99% of it. And San Diego State, FAU, all they have to do is score, put two on the board, and then they're up by three into the final seconds. And they missed, I think it was from the paint, or maybe it was somewhere near there, but San Diego State goes down, buzzer beater, ball game. And that was awesome.
I know, and it's crazy to think about too. With like San Diego State and FAU, like you want to lean on experience in that situation, right? Like that's what you want to lean on, and that's like somebody has to be the player in the moment. Somebody has to do it, but that was a team effort on both sides.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when San Diego State hit the buzzer beater, it was as surprising as if they weren't going to hit the buzzer beater and FAU was going to win. You know what I mean? Like both
Yeah.
of those teams shouldn't have been there in that situation. They both were, and they both played really well right until the end. You have San Diego State, and like here's my thing coming from like a sports background. There's such a thing I believe in sports as you want it more. I felt like watching the end of that game because I didn't catch the first half of that game, but I watched I think like 5 minutes. Yeah, I think no. Yeah. I caught the second half with about 15, right?
Right.
Yeah. 15 left. Yeah, 15 left. And I don't know. You know what I mean? I felt like San Diego wanted a little bit more, but the thing is with FAU, they just kept coming back.
Yeah.
And or not kept coming
Well,
back because they were always on the lead. I meant to reverse that. San Diego State was always coming back, but with FAU, it's almost like not they were dominating, but they were always a step ahead the whole game.
right.
And all of a sudden at the end, it was like, oh, it's like you just can't have that. Oh, but they're both so inexperienced in that moment
Hmm.
that it was just magical. And I think that's why know you're going to touch on it next segment. I think that's why UConn, spoiler alert, if you haven't listened or seen the game, UConn won the national championship men's. And that game, like it wasn't
Right.
it was close, but it wasn't that close. And I'll let you hit on that.
It's interesting. I mean, just staying on the San Diego State FAU game though. I mean, FAU, that was their first time in a Final Four. Um, and they looked like they had been there before, which is why I was so surprised towards the end when they finally showed their true colors, I guess. I mean, they had been locking it down all tournament. I mean, they're a 9 seed, so just they're going to play tougher teams than the 5 seed usually. Depending on like, what happens before you can't really control that. But I'm not sure. It was a really good game. I'm kind of sad FAU didn't win. I wanted a 9 seed in the championship game, and I thought it would have been fun. But the other side of the bracket, Miami and UConn, like we were talking about, I mean, UConn kind of smoked them for a lot of that game. I didn't watch a lot of the game because I was busy with studying for my exam, which
Yeah,
we'll see if I passed. But but UConn kind of smoked them, and it was pretty
yeah,
surprising because I think was a really really good team, and
yeah,
UConn is just a better team, which we saw that night. And in the national championship, they played San Diego State. UConn did, and UConn got their I think fifth national title in basketball. So they're experienced. They have been there many times. They have won it, like I said, now 5 times. So it just went to the guy who knew exactly what to do in that moment, right?
yeah.
And San Diego State,
Yeah.
they started to come back towards the end, but it just wasn't enough in the national championship. They just didn't put enough points.
Yeah. And that's what happens. But the fact that they even got there is why we're talking about it and why so many other people have been talking about it. Now, with the women's national championship, moving on to that, and I'm gonna be honest here. I'm gonna be honest here. Here's my thing. I'm a big basketball guy. What got me into basketball was Kobe Bryant rookie year, Yamming, Yamming, and when that's the first thing you watch in basketball, and then next things you watch after that in women's basketball is Lisa Leslie. I think women's basketball right now is in the best place it's ever been. I really do. I really do. The national championship game had the most views it's ever had. I think it had 9.8 million views or something like that.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
Like that is incredible. That's incredible because coming from coming from a dude who played hockey in Texas, nobody knows what hockey in Texas is, and in you can't watch a lot of hockey games on cable. They were never televised, and you can't watch college women's basketball games on television. You have to stream them on the apps and know what app it's on, or you don't know who has the rights. It's kind of a pain in the ass to
It's
stream it or even watch it, and
it's really
you can't even do it.
it's really inaccessible, which is kind of sad.
It's fucking bullshit. And excuse my French, but it's one of those things where you can't, it's a pain in the ass, especially when it comes to hockey. I've been dealing with it my freaking entire life. You can't watch Dallas Stars and you're living in Austin, Texas for 20 years. It's like, what is going on here? Now with all these streaming apps, you can access it, and with some online sites, you can access them too, and it sucks with that, but they made it very easily accessible for AA March Madness and Women's March Madness. You know what I mean? They always do. ESPN does a great job with that. I'm not bashing ESPN. I'm just saying in general. In the past, it's been hard to find it. Now it's all good. The apps, I understand them. All you got to do is sign in. It's not that hard. But when you're watching these games and you're watching the women's national championship, most viewed game, like I said, you have Caitlin Clark over here from Iowa. Jeez, dude. Dagger. Dagger, dagger, dagger. I've never seen a women's player that looks like Steph Curry so much. It's incredible. She pulls up from anywhere and drains it.
She's
Every
impressive.
time, dude.
She's really
Every
impressive.
time. It's impressive. And it's one of those things where it's like you watch Curry shoot the ball, watch him shoot it, even early on. on it, Davidson in March Madness. And he shot the ball. He kind of turned at the end because he knew that shot was coming in. That I don't know. You don't see that with a lot, and she does that. The thing is she won. I don't remember the award, but she won those prestigious awards. And coming back next year, you're going to get to see her play. And then you also have LSU, Angel Reese, who set record for most, I
Yeah.
think, double doubles in NCAA women's history. Happened to be on the national championship game. And LSU won. And honestly, the game wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. There was two players on Iowa that could have dominated that game as a center. I don't remember the center's name. I'm sorry. But Caitlin Clark in the center, those were the two players. Caitlin Clark was hooping, but they both got in foul trouble. And that was a big thing, too. They got in foul trouble. Iowa did. I think got a tech, or no, her fourth foul. That was, she didn't say anything. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where it's like, it's hard when you watch sporting events, especially at the best level, you watch the refs just freaking blow it.
Yeah.
Like you just watch blow it. Tanner and I are both massive football fans, everybody. Guess what? They blow the most calls in every league in the planet. You know what I mean? And you watch that game, refs kind of dictated a little bit in the beginning. But honestly, LSU was a more dominant team and they couldn't miss from the 3 point line, and pretty much it. Now, we're going to move on and talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, Tanner's wearing the Aikman jersey for a reason. And we're going to start it off by this segment talking about, do you think the Dallas Cowboys in the NFL draft need to draft quarterback? Yes or no?
What did you say? Draft a running back?
Quarterback.
A quarterback in the NFL draft. Um, I think. I mean, if you look at the Cowboys situation right now, they got their number one and their number two locked up at quarterback. So if they do, and they probably will, I assume, it's going to be in the later rounds, 6 or 7, right? Just to get some depth guys in there. Or if they don't do that, then
Yep.
they have to sign one in free agency, right, before the end of it.
That's true. That's very true. And then, you got the halfback situation. Tony Pollard coming back from injury, like you were talking about on the last pod. It would be nice to, think that Bijan Robinson could fall that far back to us. Realistically, I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
Do you think the Cowboys pick Jamar Gibbs, the halfback from Alabama, in the first round that late? Because, and here's my thing. Listening on Chad, why the heck would you think that Jamar Gibbs is going? Cowboys in more recent years have not worried about who the best player on the board is like they've done for the past 50,000 years, right? The Cowboys are going to take their position of need. Tanner was saying last podcast, if Tony Pollard is not ready, given he's only on a 1 year deal, Tony Pollard is not ready, and that is the best player at their position of need, they're going to jump and get that player. Do you think that the Cowboys take Jamar Gibbs? If they don't, do you think they draft a running back at all in this draft?
So
In the
I,
early rounds.
I think the thing about it is like you go back and look and think about like the Cowboys' history in the first round, and I agree with you. They do have um, they they often pick the player that they want rather than the player that they quote unquote need at that position, right? At a position of need. Um, just for example, Tyler Smith was this last one, right? We already had a starting left tackle. Granted, he's old, but he's playing 2 more seasons from the moment we thought he was going to retire. So
Yeah.
it's interesting you say that, but the thing about it is I've never seen them do it with a running back because Zeke, that was a top 4 pick, and I think he was gonna go top 4, top 5, even if we didn't draft him, right? Maybe even top 10. But I'm not sure if there's a running back that is like well slotted in that position. That's not if Bijan's not there, I don't think they draft one. I think
Yeah.
I don't think they
You
draft
think
one in the first
you think
round at
Bijan's
all.
the only running back that gets taken in the first round?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because I just
I
don't
think so
think
too.
there's no anyone that's like just because if you pick Bijan, you're gonna hit. You know what I mean? I mean that kid's different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, he's nice. He's
it's
nice.
it's kind of interesting, and I think at that position, what are they, 26? It's like what they always are.
Yeah.
Um,
No shit. No shit.
it's I I think they would just better draft someone that they really really like, more or less kind of like how they usually do it, right? Sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't, but I think that style, especially with their scouts, I think it works probably a lot better.
Definitely. I mean, and I don't think just going down the the on the offense, tight end. Us historically has drafted tight ends
Hmm.
pretty much in every draft. You know what I mean? And Dalton Schultz was one of those products, right? Like Dalton Schultz was, I want to say third or fourth round tight end.
Yeah, he was
Um,
down there.
yeah, and from I want to say Stanford too, and no, not Stanford. Find out. When the Cowboys draft Dalton Schultz, when the Cowboys draft tight ends, it's always one of those things because the Cowboys draft those in that position due to blanket, the
Yeah,
quarterback position. It's just that simple. If you watch any quarterback that necessarily doesn't know what they're doing, quarterback that needs to get out of any situation, the tight end's going to be there, whether it's blocking or whether it's just on underneath route where the tight end's sitting there open, or you have a top tight end in the league like a Travis Kelsey, like that where they absolutely dominate a game, right?
right.
There's not a whole lot of tight ends like that. You have a couple tight ends this year. I have in the top 20, which is pretty incredible to think about considering tight end prospects. But the tight ends with the Cowboys have a pretty solid group there. And I don't necessarily think that the Cowboys are going to pull the trigger on a tight end in the first two rounds. But if the Cowboys go to a tight end in round 3 or 4, to me, that's the sweet spot,
Yeah, I
personally.
I can agree with that. I mean, I don't remember where McEwen and where Ferguson were drafted, but I'm almost positive it was in 3 or 4 or maybe later. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's where they like to sit and that's where they like to pick tight ends. And like you said, tight end's just not a very highly sought after position in the NFL draft unless you're Kyle Pitts, you know. But
Rest in peace, Kyle Pitts. Also, my dog, if you're watching on YouTube, just came up and joined us. Tanner, keep going. Sorry.
hopefully Odin will make an appearance. I think I would like that. I would be okay with that.
Yeah.
I think I think
Yeah.
it's I think it's interesting that you brought up that. I don't know if any tight ends are going to go in the first round.
Really?
Do you think it's going to happen? I mean, just based on the nature
Absolutely.
of the NFL draft, really.
To be honest with you, I think a tight end is going to go here. And here's a hot take. I think the tight end is going to go, and I think it. I was pulling up my ranking my tight ends on rdhsports.com. If you're looking,
Go check it out
check
if
it
you haven't.
out. And you have Dalton Kincaid from Utah, and also have Michael Meyer, the tight end from Notre Dame. Yeah, I have a mid first round grade on both of them. If I'm the Green Bay Packers midway through the first round, for me, it's very, very hard to pass up on a prospect like that because I did my mock draft last night. It took me an hour. Just did the mock draft. When I was doing my mock draft, I was just basing off of need and what I would do as an NFL GM. And let me tell you, if you're a Packers fan, defensive linemen are going to get taken in the top 15. And also, a lot of quarterbacks are going to get taken in the top 15. Not necessarily that you need a quarterback, I'm not saying that. But in my opinion, I also think two offensive linemen are going to get taken in the offensive 15 or the top 15. And that's really hard because, is a Packers fan, you really want to not only establish that offensive line, you have offensive line pieces, you have great pieces there. If there's a position of need, you have Tanyan. I'm not sure his contract,
I don't know what's
but
up with him.
yeah, I'm not sure what's up with it. But like I said, and I'm keep bringing it back because this is exactly what I was talking about in the earlier segment. I'm bringing it back right here. That's your blanket. You have a first year starting quarterback the whole year with is it Jordan Love?
Yeah, you got it, Jordan Love.
Jordan Love, thank you. Jordan Love, the Packers. This is his first year. In the preseason, he's had some great games in the past. In time, he's also disappeared, right?
He's
And
disappeared a lot. Well, when it's been, him in a starting role when Rodgers wasn't able to play. I don't know
yeah,
if I remember a time where he stepped up, you know?
yeah,
He put okay. He put it right, but probably not to the level
yeah,
that Packers fans would want.
exactly. And you have him, and if you have him, would you not want to get him a safety blanket, right? Why would you not
Yeah, of
want to get
course.
him someone that he can drop the ball off to, get him comfortable, start of the game every single time? Why would you not get him a Dalton Kincaid or a Michael Meyer? You know what I mean?
Right.
Michael Meyer brings a little bit more blocking into it. Dalton Kincaid's more of a little bit of, say, Travis Kelsey type. He's a little bit of a loose cannon,
Okay, that was
and
my next
he
question. Yeah.
go ahead.
I was going to say that was my next question. I didn't know their differences. I mean, based on the Packers and how they like to play, who would you who would you think is better for them?
It's one of those things because it's another question on top of a question, right? Do you think the Packers are going to draft someone that's going to fit Jordan Love's needs
Hmm.
or their offensive line's needs, right? Because Jordan Love and their offensive line are completely different. Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love are completely different,
Right.
right? If you're Packers, right, last year, you're going to draft the offensive tackle from Northwestern, Peter Skorinski. And if you're not from last year and you're the Packers from this year, draft Paris Johnson Jr., the offensive tackle or offensive guard from Ohio State because he's so versatile,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, I don't know what their coach is going to do in the situation, right? Like, I no clue what he's going to do. But if you're going to go into whole approach, hardball, Lamar Jackson and Lamar, whatever you want, we're going to draft. You want a speedy receiver. We're going to get Hollywood Brown in here. We're going to do that. You know what I mean? But Packer wise, fits the scheme right now personally. So Dalton Kincaid because I have a higher grade on him. He's my higher grade is a tight end, but they're very close.
Okay.
And the thing is that the Packers have Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
And I think that Michael Meyer brings more of a blocking aspect. And I think that if they want to feature Aaron Jones, which bring it back, safety blanket, because that's the theme of this episode, what else is a safety blanket? If you get four yards on first down and you get 4 yards on second down and it's 3rd and 2, that's a lot easier than 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 7, where the defense knows you're passing the ball.
Y-
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So so you know what I mean? It's one of those things. So whenever you have that situation, I don't know what the Packers are going to do, but personally for me and Jordan Love, I don't know if he's the long-term solution. I think Aaron Jones is a proven back. I would
Yeah.
lean on my running game. I would lean on my offensive line, and I would let everything else establish outside of that. I would honestly probably go possession receiver,
Yeah. Okay.
at that point. But if TCU's wide receiver Quentin Johnson, I think, is on the board, but I don't think he's going to be there. You know what I mean? And there's a big drop off when you talk about the USC wide receiver, and you talk about the other wide receivers. Let me bring them up. Yeah, right here you have Zay Flowers from Boston College. You have Jordan Addison from USC, Josh Downs from North Carolina, reading uh, my rankings of the wide receivers. And to be honest with you, dude, I only have 2 first round grades on the wide receivers.
Really? Oh,
Like,
okay.
I don't think the wide receivers in this draft class are good. very top. But here's my thing, and Jackson Smith in Jigbu is in Jigba is one of the best receivers I've seen in a very long time. Long
So
time. And
so where do you think he would go? Just based on
I,
your evaluation.
for me, I think he goes in the top 10.
Okay.
If I'm an NFL GM. Is he going to go in the top 10? No. It's simply not going to happen. I would take him in the top 10, but here's my thing. This is I'm drafting him based off I'm drafting him based off if he can get into what he is because I see him exactly what CD Lamb is, but with him, he was the best wide receiver on the field at Ohio State when you had Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a very young player. I think he was there at that time. I could be wrong on Marvin Harrison Jr. Pretty for sure there. Both of those wide receivers were taken in the first round. If you're honestly better than them at times, it's hard to argue that, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to argue that. So I think he goes in the top 10. I personally, if I was a team that needed a wide receiver, I would take him outside of the top five. I don't think you can justify a top five pick on a wide receiver like a CD Lamb. You know what I mean? That's what I see him as. Now, counterpart next year, Marvin Harrison Jr. Whoa.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that kid's he's got some juice.
He's nice. He's
Yes.
nice.
Oh yeah.
And whenever you have a dynamic playmaker like that, if he can dial that in every game, sure, he's a top five pick. But receiver is that's a rich pick, especially top five. You know what I
Where
mean?
where
But
where did Jamar Chase go? Do you remember? He was up there, wasn't he?
Bengals.
No, but like,
Oh, you mean pick wise?
yeah.
I want to say he went top 10.
Was he top 10?
I want to say he was top 10.
I'll look it up.
Look it up. I think he was top 10. He had to be top 10.
He
The
was
the
top 10,
Bengals
but
had to
I'm
make him top 10.
I'm asking, I wonder, was it higher?
He had to be. I mean, the thing is though is like they're like the wide receivers
Oh,
of
there you
this
go.
draft class.
He was fifth overall,
Where is he?
so he's top five.
Okay, overall. Thank you. Um, top 10 nailed it. There's nobody on that level this year. Like
I mean,
I'm
just
glad
just
you brought
just set that as the bar, right? You know?
absolutely, and that's pick number five. That's what I'm saying. There's no way they go. You can't justify a top five, and that Tanner just backed it up, right? Not even meaning to. And whenever you have a top five wide receiver, that somebody that's absolutely is a wide receiver in college, you're sending the game. You know what I mean? That's a rare running back in the day was a pretty locked pick. That's a rare pick now. Bringing it back to and what we were talking about because we got on a long ramble about the Cowboys needs tight end. With the Cowboys, I don't think personally going to take a tight end in the first two rounds, but the third, fourth rounds
I don't
to
know.
me, I think is a sweet spot. And
I think it's I think
those
I think it's a sweet spot. Who are you gonna say?
say you have Sam Laporte, the tight end from Iowa. I got
Yeah.
an early third round grade on him. I don't know if he'll be there in the third. And then you also got Luke Musgrave, the tight end from Oregon State, who's an early third round grade. Me and Luke Musgrave is going to give you more. Once again, it's a Iowa tight end. You have a TJ Hawkinson who was originally drafted by Detroit, and you have an Iowa tight end who is a blocker, but at the same time can go out and get the ball. And then you have Noah Fant a couple years ago who was drafted by the Denver Broncos. He couldn't block at all. And he's not really in the league anymore, I don't think. But
No Fance still plays. I'm pretty sure. He was in that trade involved with Russ.
oh, you're right. You're right.
He's in
Yeah,
he's in
thank you for
Seattle now.
yeah. Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah, checking me. The thing with Noah Fant is that Noah Fant, no, in my opinion, coming out of college, had no blocking. When you had T.J. Hawkinson, I think he had a little bit of blocking. When you have Sam Laporte, I think he has a little bit of blocking, but I think he needs to develop in game
Yeah, of course.
personally.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, if you're in the third round, right, you're still going to develop something.
exactly, exactly. And then like wide receivers, you know what I mean? CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. We brought over Brandon Cooks. Realistically, there's no need there. There's no need there. Now, if the top two wide receivers in the draft fall, maybe,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
if you have, Jackson from Ohio State and you have Quentin Johnson from TCU, it's hard to argue that they're going to take that pick. Now, there's no way they're going to fall to 26. CeeDee Lamb fell to what, 15, 16?
I think it was
That
15. Yeah.
that draft. There's no shot any wide receiver of that caliber is gonna fall to 26. Now we'll move right along the line to offensive linemen.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I don't know. I mean, a guard definitely in the works, because I would assume Tyler Smith would be your future left tackle, right? That's why they drafted
Sure.
him, I would think, as a replacement for Tyron Smith. So they moved him inside, and he played guard for a lot of his freshman year here in the Cowboys. But where do you put him, right? Do you think when once training camp starts, you think Tyron goes back out to the tackle and they keep Tyler Smith at guard? I mean, that's your best five right there, because
You you can't keep him.
you
You
don't have
can't
a
keep him
guard.
off the field.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, but you don't have a guard, so that's where you have to put him. But it's weird. If you draft a guard at 26, what do you do, right? I don't know if they want to put themselves in that position.
I know, but Cowboys are always pulling some stuff like that. But the Cowboys always are going to put their best offensive lineman out there.
Yeah,
And in the early 2000s, there wasn't a whole lot of great ones.
it was like
You know what I mean? There wasn't a lot of great ones. There was Larry Allen. My goodness, I need to get his jersey. I can't wait to get that one. Get an authentic one. Larry Allen, if this ever gets to you.
Beast Man.
Yeah. But dude, the game has evolved, and when you watch football, you understand that if you don't have a dominant offensive line, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
It's just it's not going to happen. Like there's nothing you can do about it. It's not going to happen. And quarterback doesn't have time. You can't develop a play. You can't run your offense. Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow got a devastating season injury one of his first years in the league because of it.
yeah.
Because his offense, he got blindsided
They didn't protect him.
and and snap crackle pop. It's not fun. And the league is so focused on the quarterbacks now because the quarterbacks are the ones making the most money in sports aside from a couple other leagues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not to mention off the field, we're not even going to get there with how much money the quarterbacks bring in and off the field. And it's incredible. It's awesome. Whenever you have an offensive lineman, you have to shore up that offensive line. And I don't know if the Cowboys can justify a first round pick for an offensive lineman unless it is Peter Skowronski from Northwestern, Paris Johnson from Ohio State, Broderick Jones from Georgia, maybe Harrison from Oklahoma. If they're drafting based off of need, but here's my thing: there's not a need, right?
Well, I don't know.
Once,
I don't know though, because like we were saying,
where do you think on the line's a need?
this season there's probably not a need. But when do you think Tyron Smith is going to get injured? Because it's probably going to happen. It's been happening the past couple seasons, and he's not going to be here for the
Yeah,
next 5 years. So you're
yeah,
going to have to get a young guy in there sooner or later. And
that's true.
I think if the Cowboys are in a position and they really like someone that's there, I think pull the trigger on it, right? Because there's not that you don't really know what you want. You're probably Cowboys are probably just going to sit and pick the best player available. And if one of your guys is there, it might not be the best pick, that everyone thinks, but that's your guy. That's how Tyler Smith
Yeah,
ended up on the Cowboys, right?
yeah,
They just sat and they picked their guy, and everyone was like, "What? Why?" You know,
yeah,
and it turned out to be a good pick. So
yeah.
honestly, if they pick an offensive lineman in the first round, I trust it.
I mean, I get it. It's like one of those things I always say when you take an offensive lineman in the first round. It's like when we took Zach Martin. Cowboys didn't get the Xbox. They got the Xbox controller. Exactly what they got. You know what I mean? They didn't get the whole package, but they got a vital piece. And with Zach Martin, when you drafted him, that was a game changer. It was absolutely over, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Now,
can't play the Xbox without the controller.
exactly. And now moving on to the defensive side of the ball, I'm bringing up my defensive players right now ranked. I'm not sure Cowboys defensive wise they would go in the first round based off of who's there on the board because I think that the defensive prospects in this draft are such a big leap and such a big drop off personally from the offensive prospects. There's a huge drop off from an early first round grade to a late first round grade. Cornerbacks, you clearly have your number one overall corner in the first round. Now, drafting a first round prospect in the NFL, you are expecting that player to be a dynamic playmaker. If you're in the top 10, dynamic playmaker, everyday starter, three down player every time,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I would say anywhere in the first round.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely expecting him to go and do that. And
A good quality starter.
good quality starter. My thing is if you're in the later first round, like and here's my thing. 5 to 32, I think that you have that early second round prospect we know is not going to be there. So let's go ahead and take him now.
Yeah,
I'm not going to let anybody else take him. In a lot of teams have done that. That's where you have a player that if you think about it, Juju Smith-Schuster, who got taken early in the second round from USC forever ago with Pittsburgh. It's like if you were to redo that draft, end of that first round. He wouldn't
yeah,
fall into the mid first round, but he would absolutely fall into the end of that first round.
yeah. I think it's
with,
definitely.
with, with the yeah with those team needs. So you know
I'm not sure.
it's
I
one of
mean,
those. I
with Dallas, what would you say their need would be on defense, like specifically? Well, I mean, just position wise, but
think it's hard. I think it's hard because it look at safety and you have Donovan Wilson. Don't need a need at safety, but then
and
you think
I
about the
think Curse,
pros
I think Curse is coming back too. So
and you have Curse. Exactly, you have Curse, and I don't think any of the prospects in this draft are worth a first round grade unless you are not necessarily reaching, but you are taking them in the early second round. You know what I mean? Like that's what you're doing. Now, cornerbacks, like I said, Trayvon Diggs, you have your number one corner. I don't think that's necessarily a need. Justify taking a number two cornerback. Eh, The
I can understand it if they were to go that route in the second or third rounds, just because you know Gilmore signed a 2-year contract. We don't know how he's going to be, and some depth is always there, and they want to learn from good veterans such as Dig and Gilmore. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
hate the pick, especially if it's like a young kid, right? I mean that
Yeah.
cornerback room's starting to get a little busy now that they got what's his name? You remember his name? The kid who stood out last year towards the end of the season, the rookie.
Oh,
You know his name? Oh,
we're
what's his
not
name?
we're not talking about the brother from Yukon. No, I can't.
He
Yeah,
balled out in the
no.
preseason too. You know who I'm talking about.
Yes, I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of it, of course, now that we're recording. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll get it there. But yeah, no, like it's hard to justify that you can get a corner there now, and if you have corners that fall, maybe right. So I think safety cornerback is off the board right off the rip. Never have enough defensive linemen.
Yeah.
If you have a
Yeah.
if you have a standout pass rusher, ball game. You know what I mean? I know this doesn't mean anything. I play a lot of Madden, and I've been simulating a lot of Madden seasons. And Demarcus Lawrence, for some reason, has been in the top 10 pass rushers for sacks every year. I don't know why.
Where's Micah?
You know what I mean?
Where's Mike at?
You know where he's at. He's like top three.
Of course.
But I don't know why Demarcus Lawrence is there. But here's my thing, Madden, you got it wrong. I'm going to start off. Demarcus Lawrence is a run stopper with the ability to get the quarterback, when opportunity presents itself. But Cowboys could benefit extremely from a speed pass rusher.
Yeah.
Now, are there prospects that are going to be there at the end of the first round? Hard to say. It's really hard to say because this draft, personally, I think is very front loaded in the first round. I think there's a huge drop off. I think you have uh, rushing the passer specifically. You have Will Anderson Jr., the top from Alabama. Then you have Lucas Van Ness from Iowa, who's going to be there at the end of the first round, who I have on my grades. Then you have the defensive end out of Clemson, who I think Brian Reese, his name is. And this draft is extremely front heavy. Cowboys defensive line at the end, I don't know. But it's I think that's the most probable on the
S-
defensive side, mainly because the linebackers in this draft don't have a first round grade on a linebacker
Oh,
at all. There's not a linebacker in this draft that should get taken in the first round. Honestly, should not get taken till the end of the second round. Opinion.
that's a pretty big dip. I mean, so who's like your best pass rusher? Just like a
My
pure
best pass rusher
yeah, pure
is
pass rusher.
easily, it's not even close, Will Anderson Jr.
Okay, so who's your best, let's say, second round pass rusher? Like, do you think like with a second round grade, if there is any?
Second round grade. Yeah, let me pull up my guys. But like it's one of those things because you have a Lucas from Iowa, and personally for me, I have him ranked in the end of the first round, right?
Yeah.
So he could technically be there in the beginning of the second round if he falls, but a lot of analysts have him being taken in the top 15. So it's all about rankings, but I don't know. To me, I look at defensive players, and like you said, the Cowboys are going to take. I think that the Cowboys only need a speed pass rusher, right?
Okay.
And to be able to fit that mold, it's a very specific need. Now, Miles Murphy got the name wrong from Clemson. That was the mid first round grade earlier. Apologize, not Brian Reese. The early second round grade, I've got my guys pulled up. Andre Carter, second. He's a defensive end from Army. He's pretty solid. I'll read you my draft grade on him. Early second round grade. Not often do you see a prospect from Army be a potential first second round pick, but prospect. By the way, he's defensive end. He's 6'7",
Oh,
260.
oh,
Um, extremely balanced pass rusher. He's a run blocker too. He had the best season in 2021 with 15 sacks. Mind you, he's 6'7".
It's a big
15
man.
sacks. That's hard to do. Guess how many quarterback hurries he had?
How many?
35.
35. Wow.
35. But he's very raw.
So
He's extremely raw.
did he run at the combine?
I don't remember his combine numbers. I definitely think he did, but I don't remember his combine numbers.
Hmm.
Regardless, I think that he is a prospect that is very eye-opening when you watch tape.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So we have in the Cowboys' current edge rusher room, they've got Micah, we know, to Marcus Lawrence are two starters. And then I would say the next on the depth chart would probably be Sam Williams and Dante Fowler, who I think they re-signed, right? So where would you slot in these guys, in comparison to those guys?
Sam Williams, he was out of Ole Miss, what, second, third round last year?
I think he was
Like,
second round.
he was second round last year. This is a first round pass rusher.
I mean,
First round pass rusher that the Cowboys drafted was what? Oh,
Taco
Charlton
Charlton.
aside.
Yep.
There's Odin making
Hello,
an
Ed.
appearance. There he goes.
Stop snipping the
Ta-
mic, Odin.
Taco Taco Charlton,
Yeah.
I think was the last one. I don't think the Cowboys have taken
I
else. It
mean,
was in the first
you
round
you you could argue Micah Parsons,
pass rusher
but
wise.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's a pure linebacker
Yeah, yeah, of
being
course.
drafted. You know what I mean? That's
But
not. Yeah, yeah.
but
You're
wouldn't you
right. You're
wouldn't you
right.
say that like, with Taco Charlton as the example, it just being drafted in the first round doesn't mean you're going to be a first round talent, right? And Sam Williams has shown glimpses of being pretty good. He hasn't been
Yeah.
great, but he's young.
I mean, personally, for me, do I think it is an upgrade over Sam Williams? Last year, I think I had him. I want to say mid second to third at the absolute. And I have three pass rushers that I would personally look at in early second round with Andre Carter, like I said, the second from Army. I have Nolan Smith from Georgia. Let me preface by saying Nolan Smith's not going to be there. Got a heck of a combine. I don't know specifics on numbers. I remember just watching it. Then I have Will McDonald the fourth from Iowa State is a mid second round grade. Are any of those players an upgrade over our current pass rushers? No. No, they're not. But are they wiped out, right? Is there nobody else that they can draft at that spot? Now here's the thing. Cowboys at 20, dude, they trade a lot in the first round.
Yeah.
They trade a lot, and they haven't traded in a while. I'd be surprised if the Cowboys traded out of this year. Not even a little bit. Would
Okay.
I be mad if they traded? Depends if they got a first. They probably won't. Even if they got a first for next year, somehow, if they traded their pick, I personally would be okay with it, honestly, judging with who's on the board.
I mean, yeah,
You know what I
like,
mean?
would you like trading back, just let's say to the back end of the first round, because there's teams behind them, and I'm assuming they're going to be getting calls to move up, because, just the league knows that they're just in this position, right?
I mean, here's my thing. Cowboys pick at what? 20, 25, 26, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
I have 14 first round grades. Of 11, or sorry, I have 14 first round grades on the offensive side of the ball and 11 first round grades on the defensive side of the ball. Majority of those grades are mid to late first round. If you are picking in the beginning of the draft, you need a quarterback, you're looking good. If you're in the top two. Out of that, you're drafting on hope. Richardson from Florida, the quarterback, being the next Lamar Jackson, but he needs to develop a whole lot more accuracy, a lot more touchdown passes. Now, I love the kid. He's a top 10 player for me. I'm not sure, right? Quarterback's always going to get taken high. Are there players in the quarterback position could take in the middle of the first round? Probably not. You know what I mean? But it back to Cowboys specifically and first round grades and trading back out of that spot, do I think that it's a bad move? No. But I have 25 first round grades. Think that a couple of those first round grades will fall? Yes. I think a couple of those first round grades are position of need or even second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh need? No. So I think the Cowboys draft strategy, they always go with need, also go with hey, we can never have enough, right? Bill
Yeah,
Parcells.
Bill
You can
Parcells.
never have enough linebackers, right?
Right.
Like 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 the oldest Hank always said, Dad, you can never have enough linebackers. The Cowboys always draft a late round quarterback. It happens every time. Round
Of course.
5 through 7, there's a quarterback going, right?
They're gonna get a linebacker at some point. I will
They're
say that.
going to get their yeah, they're
Maybe
going to get a
two.
linebacker. Yeah, for real. So I don't think that defensive side in the ball, bringing it back to boys' needs, I don't think that they're going to get it defensive end to fit their scheme unless it is a reach. And that's how I'll end that one. Linebackers, like I said, if the Cowboys draft a linebacker in the first round, I will lose my mind.
It's gonna be a fun season if they do.
Well, I will absolutely lose my mind. Now, defensive tackles, I'm okay
I'm not.
with defensive
Yeah,
tackles
I'm not
at the end
opposed.
of the first round.
If
At the
there's
end of the first round.
is there like a guy that's gonna? 'Cause, I don't know much about this stuff, but like, is there a guy that's gonna be like a big body, just run stuffer guy at the end of the first round?
At the end of the first, I think he's going to get taken a little bit higher, but I would go with the defensive tackle out of I don't know how to say his name. His last name's Cansey, Kalijah Cansey, out of Pittsburgh. He's nice. He's really nice. And then Brian Brees, who's the defensive tackle out of Clemson. Also, I have both of them late first round grades. I have the defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh being a little bit better. Personally, I think the defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh is going to get taken better than he should
Mm.
because I think that you have every year that gets hyped up on his athletic abilities. I think that this kid has outstanding athletic abilities. I think that he's been hyped up a lot this draft, and I'm not trying to say he's not the player that they're hyping him up to be at all. I think he's a great player. Like I said, he's a first round grade. There's only 25 of this year's draft, and he's one of them. He's one of my best defensive tackles. He's my third. No, I'm sorry. He's my second defensive tackle behind Jalen Carter. So I'm putting respect on his name, but I just he's not going to be there at the end of the first round. I'm just going to say that I could see him going in the top 20 if he doesn't go top 20 22. I would say I'd be very very surprised. Now you have Brian Brees who's sitting there at the end of the first round. Potentially he could be there, but would I feel comfortable with that? With the Cowboys with the defensive tackle, you have Odigizua right now, right? That's your clear DT number one, right?
Yeah.
He brings a lot to the field, right? He brings a lot of honestly pass rushing ability and run blocking ability. Like
Right. I mean,
whenever whenever he wants to turn it on, he turns it on, right?
yeah.
So, do I think that Brian Brees or if he's there, Elijah Cansey, yeah, heck yeah, I'm okay with that. Same thing with the defensive ends. If they're there, heck yeah. There's no corners. It's very few, and safeties very few. Now there's only one safety that I have that has a first round grade. That's the safety from Alabama with Brian Branch, and it first round grade on him. The safety outside of that is going to be A&M safety with Antonio Johnson, and I have a early second round grade on him. Are the Cowboys going to pull the trigger on that? No. That's not happening.
You don't know.
So
You don't know. Maybe they can go home.
it's we'll see.
Homegrown.
We'll see what happens. I'm absolutely cool with that. But if Brian Branch slips there, I'm okay.
Hmm.
I'm okay with that.
So
I'm absolutely
is this guy like
okay
a
with.
is this guy like a true safety? You know, like is he a coverage safety or is he kind of like a in the box kind of safety?
Let me pull up my exact scouting report on him. But it's the one thing, dude. It's Alabama safeties.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like what do you think they're going to be? They're going to be coached 4 years. They're going, oh, and that's the thing too. And I didn't even need to pull it up, but now I got it. He's a 4 year player. He's a 4 year player at oh yeah, 3 years. Sorry, he's a 3 year player at Alabama. When you're a 3 year player and playing at Alabama, 3 years is probably what, 1.5 years of coaching in the NFL. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Saban is a legit NFL coach. Yes, he flunked out speaking at the Miami Dolphins, but he's an NFL coach. And 3 years there at Alabama, he only missed 4 tackles
The whole
in
time.
the SEC. Yeah, that's courtesy of PFF.
That's
And
absurd.
I'll read my report. If Branch is your last line of defense on the football field, you're in good hands. He lined up in the slot more than he did deep, which shows his versatility. Been watching this player since his freshman year, and he's continued to get better and better. He has ball skills and is the hardest hitting cornerback safety in this draft. That's why I wanted to read that. He can play cornerback too. Um, I personally project him as more a slot corner in the box safety player.
Okay.
Where do you value that on your football team? First round? I don't know.
Depends on the team.
Exactly. Depends on the team. Now, prospect, me, at first round grade. It's just that simple. Safety wise, prospect, he is the best safety in this draft. Me. So, once again, do we see Dallas taking a safety? No, but value him high on their board, then they will.
Yeah.
And the other thing with Dallas that read into, if you don't know, Dallas drafts their 30-day visits. You go look at their you have visits for the prospects going into the NFL draft. They're called 30 visits because you get 30 visits. And just go look at those players, type it in Google, and Dallas historically drafts majority of their players in the later rounds and sometimes even in the earlier rounds on those 30 visits. I don't know if the 30 visits have been released yet. It's got to be really close to being released, but
They've had a couple.
if it
I know the TCU receiver made an appearance. That was fun.
yes, yes. And then I think you said the backer from Clemson made the appearance too,
I think
if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right. I'll look up Dallas 30 visits.
Yes, yeah, you're right. So you're talking about Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee and then the linebacker Trenton Simpson. Jalen Hyatt, I want to say I have a late 2-3 on. I'm not too sure on the other prospect, Trenton Simpson, the linebacker. But Dallas with the 30 visits, they draft a lot of those players.
All right, do you want me to read all of the 30 visits? Because I found them.
Let's go ahead.
Okay. There are, at least this is so far, inside linebacker, Antonio Mafi from UCLA,
Okay.
Emmanuel Forbes from Mississippi State, defensive back, Tyreek
So we're all
Stevenson from Miami, defensive back, I guess cornerback in this case
okay.
specifically.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's the Tyree Stevenson. That one's interesting. He's definitely the earliest round I have on those three prospects so far.
Steve Avila, I don't know if I'm saying that right, from TCU, offensive lineman.
He's down
Jonathan
there.
Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss, he's a receiver.
These are all late round grades I have on my board.
Braden Willis, tight end from Oklahoma. And here's
Slate
here's
too.
here's one you were talking about, Quentin Johnson from TCU, receiver.
That's a
That's
that's a top 10 prospect
it's up
on a
there.
lot of on a lot of NFL analyst boards. That is the number one wide receiver. Not mine, but one wide receiver on their board.
Tyler Lacey, Oklahoma State defensive lineman. I don't know how to say this name. Jaquelin Roy, LSU defensive lineman.
Okay. Okay.
Zach Evans, Ole Miss running back. And
Oh,
then,
that's interesting.
yeah,
Zach Evans, I could okay. That's an interesting one. Zach Evans, I could see that going in potentially the maybe the third, maybe the fourth, depending on where he goes in the draft. That one would be a good one because said in the last pod you have Tony Pollard coming in, right? And you don't know if he is literally going to be able to go at the beginning of the season, right?
you have no idea.
You don't know at this time, and you never know with the injuries. There's Odin making another appearance on YouTube, and you have no idea. So you have to draft that position to back it up, no matter what, right?
I'm not sure. I
Yeah,
mean, Cowboys like to draft running backs in the mid to late rounds, so it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun if they pull the
yeah.
trigger again. They probably will at some point, I would imagine, especially in the later rounds. But the next one we have is Zay Flowers, receiver from Boston College.
Ooh,
Yeah, I saw
that's a
that one.
really that's a really interesting prospect to me. That's a lot of experts on early two. Same with me. That's my third wide receiver that I have. He's good. He's good. He's going to be a bit of a deep threat on you. He really comes into the offense and I would say establishes dominance early. You have to get him going early, in my opinion. But he with a deep threat, those are a dime a dozen. Tyreek Hill is the best deep threat in the NFL. It's not even close. If you get somebody coming into the NFL that is half of Tyreek Hill, that's a starting one or two wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty good.
yeah, if that's what happens, I'm absolutely with it. Will he be there? Um, I don't know. That's a tough one because you have I think there's going to be two wide receivers, Ohio State, wide Jackson, and then you have Quentin Johnson from TCU, and then I think you're going to have gosh, I think you're gonna have it. I think maybe Addison from USC get taken before that. It just depends on where the teams value the wide receivers and what their needs are, right?
Yeah.
What is Tennessee gonna do early in the? I think they pick between 11 and 13 or something like that. Is Tennessee gonna get a wide receiver, right? Did Traylon Burks pan out last year? I don't know, right? I was a huge Traylon Burks fan. That was one of my favorite coming into the draft, but did he pan out? Technically, no. They decide to get somebody else to go with him. You don't know, right? You have no idea what teams are going to do or where they value their prospect on their board, but that's what makes the NFL draft so fun, and that's why I spend a lot of my time on it.
I mean, fair
So,
enough, but let's keep going down the list. Another receiver, Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee.
oh, that's a good one. I think I have a 2-3 on him. That's a
Okay.
really good one.
So,
I'd be absolutely okay with him. In
s-
the first, yeah, I would consider that a bit of a reach pick, but I would be okay with that pick in the second, but you would probably have to trade up to get him in the second, personally.
or trade back from the first.
True. True.
See what they want to do. But next on the list, we got Trenton Simpson from Clemson,
That's a good one.
linebacker.
It's a good one.
See
I'd
if they.
I'd be okay with that. Once again, not in the early rounds. I'm going earliest late two, early three.
Cool. Next is Josh Downs, receiver from UNC.
Ooh. Okay, so they're going big receivers.
Yeah,
These 30 visits are making me think that Dallas is seriously considering a wide receiver for ends of the later end of the rounds.
yeah. I think
Because
it's
these are
interesting.
all technically early to won't be there in the when they pick in the second round receivers to me, based on team needs and how valuable wide receivers are. Interesting.
It
Okay.
it is because we've got. I mean, you were saying the big ones. Obviously, Quentin Johnson, Jalen Hyatt, and Zay Flowers probably at the top three on this list so far.
Hmm.
That 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 they have seen. So that's interesting. All right,
Yeah.
well, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Will
Yep.
McDonald, the fourth, Iowa State. He's an edge.
Dude, that's a first round grade pass rusher. Have him. Oh, I know I have him. He's a top 25 player for me. And he's at the end. He's at the very end of the first round grades. I would be static if we got him. He's not a speed guy by any stretch of the means, but that's a solid pick at the end of the first round if we were to be able to land him.
Fair enough. All right, next up is a linebacker, DeMarvin Overshone from Texas.
That's late.
Yeah.
That's
Ne-
four. That's four, five, six.
Next one, there's a guy from Hawaii. He's an offensive lineman. I don't know how to say this. Ilum Manning.
Okay.
Ilm.
I don't. I can't say I know him.
Okay. Next one is Darrell Johnson from Liberty. He's an outside linebacker.
Oh, I've watched him. I've watched him. Let me bring up Darrell. Said he's from Hawaii, right?
He's from Liberty.
Liberty.
The Hawaii was the last guy.
Oh no, my last linebacker I watched was Dorian Williams from Tulane. So I
Ah,
don't know about this prospect.
close, close. But the next one we have is Kendra Miller from TCU. He's a running back.
Mm.
Maybe I'm saying that wrong. Kendre? I don't know. He's the line. The next one is the linebacker slash safety, Marte Mapu from Sacramento State.
Cowboys are going literally 4-7 with a lot of these prospects in this range, aside from the wide receivers and very few of the defensive prospects. Which is what they traditionally do though,
Yeah,
because they already have their guys in the first, second and third rounds.
fair enough. Oh, I like this kid. It's got my name. His name is Tanner McAllister from Oklahoma State. He's a safety. Let's draft this guy.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma State, Big 12. It's an argument everywhere. Is it defense, right? Is it a lot of defense? He's not a bad player. Once again, I give him a late round grade. I do remember watching the tape on him. He's like I said, late round. Do I think he's going to make a splash in the NFL? No. Do I hope I'm wrong? Yeah, obviously. But you need a couple years minimum, and yeah, you're looking late round again.
Yeah,
You're a lot of these guys are in the fourth to seventh round so far, or what I'm hearing so far.
yeah. There's only five more. Next one is receiver Xavier Gibson from SFA.
That's not bad. That's an earlier round. I watched him. I gave him the absolute latest five I've seen, and I've seen as earliest as three. He's not a bad player at all. I think that there's times where he needs to work on his game. Where does he fit in necessarily to the Dallas Cowboys offense? That's that's a little bit tough, right? overtake a CD Lamb? No. Can he overtake a Michael Gallup? No. Can he overtake a Brandon Cooks? Depending on what kind of Brandon Cooks shows up. Now, here's the thing: Brandon Cooks has, I think, seven, eight 1,000-yard seasons. Can he overtake Brandon Cooks? No, I don't think so. Brandon Cooks is an absolutely incredible receiver three, and I think the Cowboys would be crazy draft wide receiver in the top rounds unless it is the top two wide receivers in this draft who we've been talking about this whole pod.
Yeah, I mean they got to fall right.
But Brandon Cooks is only on a 2-year deal. He could learn from him. Okay with taking a wide receiver in the fourth round and developing him like we developed a Noah Brown and just re-signing 1-year contracts with not a whole lot of money and just
Yeah,
getting big catches and big moments for the last, or not 10 years, but 3 years.
yeah, fair enough. Next one is I said this one. Next one is tight end Darnell Washington from Georgia.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, Darnell Washington. I don't have to look at my scouting report. I have an early two. No, I think I have a late one on him. He is the most raw prospect in this draft.
Really?
Me,
Okay.
personally. He's the most raw prospect in this draft. But, but he might be the most exciting. Might be the most exciting prospect in this draft, aside top 5 picks. Right? Aside from
All right, we're back. Sorry, we had a technical difficulty, but we are back. On the on the
Darnell
on the podcast, you're not going to hear anything different, but for us, it was a surprise.
Darnell 10, what we were talking about.
Yes.
My thing, if Dallas drafts Darnell Washington at the end of the first round, I'm okay with it. An extremely, extremely raw prospect. The I his measurables are upwards of 6'5", and when you're that tall at a tight end, and the ability to move like he does, it's something like you haven't seen. Like I said, he was the most raw prospect in this draft, but he has one of the most upsides in this draft, in my opinion. Now, so does Anthony Richardson, quarterback out of Florida. Anthony Richardson has to develop a passing game, right? Tight ends have to develop a blocking game, right? Tight ends have to develop a passing route game, right? They have to have the ability to run routes. I think that he lacks the ability to run routes. He lacks the ability to block. I think that he lacks the ability of a lot. He gets open. When you're getting open in Georgia against Alabama consistently against other teams in the SEC, and you're that raw, that's you can't that's not something a lot of prospects have or ever even strive to have. You know what I mean? There, imagine not being a pure route runner, a pure pass catcher. He has a little bit of everything, is what I'm trying to say. And if he develops all of those tools, only he can easily be a top tight end in the league. There's a lot of tools that he has to develop. Is the offensive coaching staff on the Cowboys side of the ball, do they have the ability to develop a player like that? I don't know. I don't know if they do. That's a hard player, but I think he needs to go to the right system. And I think if he goes to the right system, I think the Cowboys can do it. I think if he goes to the right system, he can be a game wrecker in a couple years maximum. The right coaching and the right system.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll be excited if he comes. It'll be fun. All right. Next on the list, we got inside linebacker Drew Sanders from Arkansas.
Interesting. Drew Sanders, he's my he's definitely in my top five. I like Drew Sanders a lot. I think that he brings kind of one of those he's not going to miss the tackle. That's kind of the thing that stood out on the tape for me with Drew Sanders. He's not going to miss the tackle in there and make the play when he needs to get. Actually, nowhere near the first round. Second round, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it in the second round, but have to have a pretty good first round pick for that to be your second round pick because you could honestly trade a sixth round pick or a seventh round pick and trade up in the third round to get him.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. I mean, kind of falls right where Dallas would like to pick him, though, right?
Zan.
He could be coming to Dallas. You never know. But last, but certainly not least, tight end Cameron Latu from Alabama.
Cameron the two from Alabama. I remember watching him. He's more of a yeah, raw. I mean, he's very raw. He's definitely, I would say, probably fifth to seventh round grade, in my opinion. Needs to develop a lot at the position. But with the right coaching, any prospect can develop, right? I think that once again, he's had coaching from Nick Saban. So I realistically think he's had NFL coaching. And I think that he can easily get the speed of the game. That's not going to be hard for him to catch up on. It's just the traits and the abilities that he needs to find. But with a couple years and once again with the right system, potentially happen. But he's getting taken in the fifth, sixth, seventh, late fourth, maybe. But even then, I'm kind of a little bit of question mark. But fifth, sixth, seventh, I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, fair enough. And that's all the 30 visits, at least from when this article was published. So I think as of a day ago, I think this is the most recent 30 visits.
did did who is the article by?
This one was by AZ Sports.
Okay, there we go. AZ Sports. Go check them out. Giving them props. All
Yeah.
right. This is the official end of the podcast, Tanner. Let's go ahead and do it next week. We'll talk about more more prospects. We'll talk about more needs because the NFL draft is coming up. I'm going to be talking about probably my mock draft because, like I said, I've already knocked out about 15 picks of the first round, and I'm hoping that this year I'm going to do my first 2 round mock draft, and we can go in and dissect that one. So, Tanner, let's do it again next week.
Yeah, absolutely.